Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer Melamed, Shlita. We begin a new week of learning, and we ask you to please continue davening for Chaylei Tzvah Gan Yisrael, for Shlem L'chol Petzui Yisrael, and a return of our hostages for Kavuras Yisrael. We dedicate our learning each and every day to Ili Nishmat, Saren, Daniel, Shimon, Ben Harav, Daron, Vasheli, Shemekam Damo. The next chapter, Anias Devarim Shebekedushah, Beberchas Keriat Shema. Ladas Marami Rottenberg, B'shash Adam Omer Keriat Shema U'Berchaseha, Lo Yafsik La'anos Al Kaddish V'Kedusha. So according to the Marami Rottenberg from one of the Rishonim, at a time when a person is saying Keriat Shema and the blessings, you cannot answer to Kaddish or Kedusha. Shehovahu osek kavar b'shivcho shel makom, asolo lahafsik kedei la'anos al shevach acher. Since the whole essence of Birchas Keriat Shema is giving thanks and praise to Hashem, so if you're in the midst of doing so, you can't interrupt it to give a different type of praise. Aval das rov harishonim, but most of the Rishonim, including the Rush, they hold shelitzorach shivachim gedolim shene'amarim b'tzibur v'shoy adam lahafsik afilu be'emtza Birchas Keriat Shema v'chein halacha, is that for the need of greater levels of praise, which are said publicly, so that's Kaddish and Kedusha, then you're allowed to interrupt even in the middle of the brachas of Keriat Shema, and this is how we paskin. It's found in the Shulchan Aruch Siman Samach Vav Sif Gimel in Orach Chaim. Keshayafsik Ya'aneh Rek Al Dvarim HaChashuvim B'Yoser. But when you have to interrupt, so let's say you're saying brachas Keriat Shema, they're up to Kedusha, you can only say the most important things. Ve'eluhem, and they are as follows. B'Kaddish Yesh Omrim Sheya'aneh Rak Amen Yehesh Me'Rab V'Varach Le'Olam U'Me'el Maya. Only those two sections of Yehesh Me'Raba and then the first Da'amiran Be'alma V'Imru Amen. So in other words, you wouldn't say Brichu, you wouldn't say if it was Teskabel, you wouldn't answer that, Amen, or at the end. Shehu Siyam Ikar HaKadosh, because the Da'amiran Be'alma is the end of the main part of Kaddish. All the other parts are added on, Yehesh Shlama, Teskabel, etc. V'yesh Mosifim V'Omrim Shiana Es Kol Chameshes HaAmenim Sha'anogim La'anos B'Ikar HaKadosh Shenikra Chatzi Kaddish. And some say you should just say the amens that are in the beginning part, but not in the added parts of, let's say, Yehesh Shlama Rabba, or Teskabel. That's as far as Kaddish goes. What about Kedusha? You should only say the main parts, which are the first two sections of Kedusha, Kadosh, 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 and Baruch. So the first two lines of Kedusha is what you should say. And some say also at the end you say Yimloch. This is the widespread custom. And you certainly don't say all the other additions that the Chazan might say and add. Al Baruchu Yana Kimikubal, Baruch Hashem Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. If they're up to Baruch and you're in the middle of Keriat Shema, you can answer Baruch Hashem HaMavarach. Uvamodim Shel Chazaras Hashat Yishtachavev Yana Modim Anachnu Lach V'Lo Yoser. And if they're in Chazaras Hashat and they're saying Modim and they get up to Modim D'Rabbanan, you could just say the words, you'd bow a little bit and say Modim Anachnu Lach, and that's it, and you don't say the rest of it. Laminig Ashkenazim, according to Ashkenazi custom, Onin Amein Al Birchas Hakel HaKadosh Shemei Tefillah. You could even, if they're in Chazaras Hashat, you can answer, or you should answer, the Amen on the bracha at the end of Kedusha, Vakel HaKadosh, and also in Shemei Tefillah. Shebehein Misaimin is Birchas HaShevach or Birchas HaBakasha, because those are the end of sections of the Shemona Esrei, the first section being the praise section, and the middle section, which has to do with all the requests, that ends with Shemei Tefillah. L'minik Sephardim dinim kashahar brachas v'liyan aleihem, and according to the Sephardic custom, they're no different than any of the other blessings, and we do not answer Amen. Ein hevdel bedin zeh bein imhu nimtza be'emtza habracha v'haperek, o bein bracha lebracha bein perek leperek. Here, there is no difference, no separation in this halacha whatsoever, whether you're in the middle of a chapter of the brachas of Keriat Shema or you're in between chapters. As we may have seen when we learned Pesukei de Zimra, that depending on whether if you're in the middle of a paragraph or in between, that would affect the ability to answer. And whatever you can answer, any possibility to answer, whether you're in the middle of the brachos or at the end of the brachos, aval achar she'amar bracha to Hashem shall siyum habracha v'nosar lo awad milim esfuras l'chasim zabracha lo yafsik. But if you're saying bracha to Hashem and there's still a lot of other words until you get to the end of it, you shouldn't make any interruption. Because let's say you're saying bracha to Hashem and you have a long bracha and you haven't finished it yet, you can't interrupt for it, answer something else, because then you're actually changing the language of the bracha that which you are reciting, so you shouldn't do so. Pasuk Shema Yisrael, Ubarach Shen Kavod Malchusov, etc. Shebehem Mekablan Ol Malchus Shamayim Lo Yafsik L'Shem Davar. And also, when you're saying Shema Yisrael or you're saying Baruch Shem, you can't stop in the middle of the pasuk of Shema Yisrael and answer. You wouldn't say Shema Yisrael Yehei Shmei Rabbah because that doesn't exist. So it's antithetical to the whole purpose of accepting the yoke of Shemayim. And these are dinim kedin Tefillah Shmona Esrei she'ein mafsikin bo l'shum davar. These are akin to Shmona Esrei, the Amidah, which we do not interrupt for anything. Kol ema she'adam mistapek im muter lo la'anos halacha. If a person is not sure, this can happen because we don't know these halachas necessarily cold, as we would say. We don't know them on the back of our hand. So if we're not certain whether or not we should interrupt, muter sh'liyana, it's better that you should not answer. Shekein ladas harbe poskim af shemuter lanos ein b'kach chova. Because according to many poskim, even though you might be allowed to, there's no requirement to interrupt. V'lachein b'chol makom shel sufek muter shelo lanos, and therefore, any time that we have a doubt, it's just best not to answer. The ultimate solution is to get to shul on time or early, know the pace of your minyan, and be able to be on par, on pace with the minyan in which you are davening. That's always the best advice, but we know sometimes life gets in the way and it doesn't work out like that. So thank you for joining us for another week of learning. Please continue davening for Charli Tzvagan Yisrael, proper return of our hostages for Kuras Yisrael, Nishmat Daniel Shemer of Jerome Vishal Shem. Thank you again so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you here next time.